Brazilians are world famous for their love of football and their love of a life of fun and celebration, so the capital, Rio de Janeiro, may not be devoid of huge celebrations and festivals throughout the year, as samba dancers roam the streets of the city, playing their popular music and swaying adorned with their colorful clothes. And gaudy, but there is another aspect that you, dear reader, may not know about Brazilians, which is that the majority of them are strongly attached to their Catholic Christian faith. And the statue of Christ the Redeemer erected on a high peak overlooking the entire city came to confirm this attachment and religious attachment. The idea of creating a statue of Christ the Redeemer was essentially a religious idea. In 1850, a Catholic priest named Pedro Boz thought of creating a majestic monument symbolizing Christianity in Brazil. He petitioned Princess Isabel, who was heir to the throne of the Brazilian Empire at the time, to provide the project with money, but the princess ignored the idea. So it was forgotten and was completely rejected after the declaration of the Brazilian Republic and the issuance of laws that regulated the work of the Church and separated its administration and resources from the state. But the idea was revived again in the 20s of the last century by a group of religious Catholics in the capital, Rio. Large public festivals and gatherings were organized in order to collect donations and in-kind assistance necessary to implement the project. Indeed, within a few years, the group was able to collect large sums of money, most of which came from Brazilian Catholics, and soon a number of prominent designers and sculptors were hired to present their designs. Concerning the proposed monument, the basic idea of the project was centered around creating a huge monument symbolizing the cross and Christ as well at the same time. The organizing committee for the engineering designs competition chose a design by a Brazilian engineer named Getro da Silva Costa, who used artistic methods that were popular in the period in his work and plans. The 1920s is called Art Deco. It was decided to implement the project on top of Mount Corcovado, which stands 700 meters above sea level and whose summit can be seen from all parts of the Brazilian capital, Rio de Janeiro. The French sculptor Paul Landowski and a group of other artists and sculptors were commissioned to carve and erect the statue. Reinforced concrete was used to cast the inner part of the statue, and it was covered from the outside with soapstone, specially imported from Sweden. This stone is distinguished by its hardness, but at the same time it is easy to shape and is a good electrical insulator. Roads were extended and a railway line was constructed that ascended to the top of the mountain to transport workers and building materials. Work continued to implement the project for a period of 9 years between 1922 and 1931. The monument was opened in a large celebration in which the President of the Brazilian Republic at the time participated. It was decided that the statue is illuminated using devices linked wirelessly to the Vatican in Italy, 5,700 miles away, as a form of respect that the Catholics of the world have for the Pope and the Vatican. However, the plan faced some problems due to bad weather conditions, so it was decided to illuminate the statue by the Brazilian workers responsible for managing and maintaining the statue. Sections attached to it. The statue of Christ the Redeemed is considered the largest Art Deco monument, and its height is 39.6 meters, including the platform on which it stands, which is 9.5 meters high. The width of the statue is 30 meters, and its weight as a whole is about 650 tons. There is another statue of Christ in Bolivia that is slightly taller. Of the Brazilian statue, its height is 40.4 meters, including the platform on which it stands, which is 6.24 meters high. However, the style of sculpting the two statues is different, and the high peak on which the Brazilian statue stands distinguishes it from its Bolivian counterpart. In 2007, the statue was nominated in the Swiss competition to choose the new 7 wonders of the world. Many large Brazilian companies and banks organized a huge advertising campaign to promote the statue. The religious factor was also exploited to obtain more votes, so the campaign raised the slogan, "Vote for Christ." The country's mobile phone companies sent emails to the mobile phones of millions of their users saying, "Press 4916 and vote for Christ, for free." It seems that 10 million Brazilians responded to this free invitation and voted for the statue, which ensured its victory in the competition. Of course, this does not mean that the rest of the winning countries, 3, in the new Seven Wonders competition did not exploit the national factor to inflame the feelings of their citizens and did not invest millions of dollars to push them to vote for the wonders of their countries participating in the competition. The matter is of course not limited to the religious factor. But the main factor that played a major role in the results of the competition is the national factor embodied in the feeling of pride that these antiquities belong to such and such country, in addition to the economic factor that led to directing attention and investments towards these. The competition was held because many governments considered it a golden opportunity to attract tourists, and these emotional influences, whether national, economic or religious, are what prompted many around the world, including UNESCO, to question the credibility of the competition because it relied on the method of whoever votes the most wins the most, where one person can vote multiple times. In 2008, the statue was struck by a strong lightning bolt during a thunderstorm that struck the city of Rio de Janeiro, but the lightning bolt did not cause damage to the statue despite the burning of several trees near it, thanks to the soapstone used in its outer layer, which is considered a good insulator of electrical current. 1. According to the World Encyclopedia, 60.71% of the population of Rio de Janeiro are Catholics and 17.65% are Protestants, with 13.33% being non-religious and the rest being small religious minorities. 2. The Brazilian Empire. When Napoleon Bonaparte occupied Portugal at the beginning of the 19th century, the Portuguese royal family fled to its colony in Brazil and made it the seat of its rule. Then it declared it an independent empire in 1822, and its throne was ruled by two emperors, Pedro I and Pedro II. The empire ended in 1889 with the declaration of the Brazilian Republic and the abolition of the monarchy. As a result, the royal family left for exile in Europe. Princess Isabel was the daughter of Emperor Pedro II and heir to the throne of the empire because the emperor did not have a male heir. She ruled the country for short periods during her father's intermittent travels to Europe. 3. India opened the competition for free in recent days in order to elect the Taj Mahal, and so did some other participating countries, while there were monuments such as the statues of the Easter Islands, the Alhambra in Andalusia, the Statue of Liberty in New York, etc. They were not elected because the vote for them was a little